Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody!
The energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, reppin' both hoods. Rob and CP, keep it fire, misunderstood. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city stand lights to the skyline greens, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. Rob hype on the mic, CP's the fire spark. Together they ignite, voices like the park. Fans drift in jerseys, legacy bold. The Metropolitan story forever told. Turnstile spinning, the crowd floods the gates. This is family, no time for debates. Crack of the Batman, the roar never fades. Queens in the blood, it's how champions are made. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city stand lights to the skyline gleams, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. 7-line swagger, vibes electric and wild. Mets legacy golden since I was a child. Orange crushed skies, let the battle ignite. Ride for the home team till the last fight.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazing Mets pregame show right here on the channel. And how is everybody doing on this lovely Monday as the Mets have a 4-game series with their NL East rivals, the Philadelphia Phillies? Welcome to the channel, guys. Welcome to the show. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. You know all that good stuff. And listen, guys, the Red Series absolutely sucked. It's just what the Mets have been doing, right? They've been playing down to their competition. They've been playing up to their competition. That has been good competition. I don't know what we're going to see out of the Philly series, but I know one thing for sure. The Mets play up to these teams. Why? I don't know, but they do. So what do they got to do here? It's very simple. They got to keep winning. And this has nothing to do with the division. This has nothing to do with anything else except winning ball games, stacking those W's so we can make the playoffs. Regardless of how that happens, I think we're also too many people are focused on how we win, where we are in the standings, in division, wild card, whatever. The fact is, they just got to win. And yesterday, we got a lot of help. The only team that won out of all the teams that were either chasing or behind us was the Padres. The Cubs lost, the Giants, Diamondbacks. And that's it. Obviously, Cincinnati beat us. So everybody lost that we needed to lose except for the Padres and obviously the Reds. So listen, it is what it is. The fact is the Mets over the last 2 days haven't really lost any ground. And again, the more this goes on, the more the Mets don't have to worry because there's less and less games every single day. And that's where you need to be. That's where you need to be focusing on if you're a New York Mets fan, is how do they figure out a way to get into the playoffs? Like, it's obvious, unless the Mets go on a major run, which, again, it's still unlikely, but still. They're not clinching anything until probably the last week of the season. If that's even the case, a playoff spot, at least a playoff spot. It doesn't matter if it's second, third, first wild card division. It doesn't matter. They are just where they are right now. And it's not supposed to mean they're good or bad, but as Dwayne just said in the comments, there is no NL team that doesn't have a flaw, doesn't have many flaws, don't have issues. All these teams, there is not one team you can say the Mets can't beat in the National League. I'm not even worried about the American League because the American League is pointless to talk about until you get to the World Series and you play an American League team. Other than that, that's it. Because, again, I don't think there's any – this is probably a very weird year because there's a strong possibility that not one team is probably going to win 100 games. And I don't even think the Brewers are winning 100 games. And usually we at least have one team that has 100 wins, and it might not even get to that point. So there's not one team that you can confidently say that that team is the best out of everybody. Now, you could go based on records, that's for sure. But again, the Brewers are a notoriously bad postseason team. Now, that doesn't mean nothing. The Rangers have been, nothing for a while, and they've been a bad postseason team, and they won a World Series. But there's not a team that I don't think the Mets can't beat. The same way I don't think anybody should say that they can't beat anybody. I think it goes to anybody. You can ask any fan base. There shouldn't be one team that you should be worried about. Now, obviously, we all have our opinions of who you would like to face. We know about the situation with the Padres. The Mets don't match up well against the Padres. But again, if we face the Padres, yeah, we're going to be thinking about the matchup never fits the Mets pretty well. But that doesn't mean you ain't going to have a chance to win, because you do. You do. I mean, just think. The Mets beat 2 division winners. They beat the Brewers, they beat the Phillies, and they took the Dodgers, who eventually won the World Series, to Game 6 in the NLCS. And they were the last wildcard team and made it on the last day. So there's so much that we can look at here, but it really doesn't matter, because all you got to do is make the playoffs. We all know how that works nowadays with Major League Baseball. It does not matter that the New York Mets are the 3rd wildcard team, 1st wildcard team, 2nd wildcard team. Even if they find a way to win the division, it's likely that the division winner of the NL East could still play in a wildcard series, because they would be the 3rd best division. Now, they could still be the 2nd division and we get a bye. That would be wonderful, right? We all want that. We want the Mets to find their way into winning the division, getting the 2nd best record, and getting a bye. I think that would benefit the entire team. But it's unlikely. Look, the only way the Mets are going to have a chance for this division, and again, by no means am I saying that it's likely, but the only chance they have is what they did at Citi Field against the Phillies the last time. They needed to sweep to have that conversation again. That's what they need to do here, and that's a tough task. And there is some news based on the Mets side and the Phillies side, as Luis Torrens went back on the IL with a forearm contusion. So Hayden Sanger is back up here. And on the Phillies side, Alec Bohm and Trey Turner are on the IL. So those 2 guys are not going to be in the lineup for this series. And there's a pretty good chance that Turner might not be or will be ready until the playoffs. So right now, you got one of their better leadoff, obviously their leadoff hitter in Trey Turner, and who's a guy who can do some damage against the Mets. And Alec Bohm, kind of a hit or miss, but he's been one of their best guys with runners in scoring position. Both of those guys are not on the team right now. They're on the IL. So what do you got to do if you're the New York Mets? You got to focus in on Schwarber, Harper, and Real Muto. That's how you beat the Phillies. That's how the Mets have beat the Phillies. When you shut down Schwarber and probably Harper or Real Muto, you have to calm 2 of those down. You can let one do some damage, but the other 2 you got to control. And the Mets have done a good job with that. So they got to continue that. Without Trey Turner, without Alec Bohm, the Mets are kind of more healthier than the Phillies right now. They need to take advantage of it. Right now, you could say the Mets lineup is a little bit better just based on health, right? And, Eduardo Sosa is a Mets killer, and he's playing shortstop for Trey Turner right now. So, he's a guy that just always gets big hits against the Mets. So that is a little bit worrisome, because it's always the guy that replaces somebody that does damage. So we have to make sure that the New York Mets do what they need to do. Again, winning is nice against the Phillies because, again, we hate the Phillies. So it's always good to beat them. But I'm not focused on anything except for a win. And how we get into the playoffs, I don't think it matters. I really don't think so. Like, there was, 2 teams, a couple of years ago, like the Rangers choked away their division and found a way to get to the World Series and then win it. The Arizona Diamondbacks that same year snuck into the playoffs like the Mets did last year, and the Diamondbacks got to the World Series by beating big-time teams. So everything's possible. Everything's on the table. Just make the playoffs. So, again, if the Mets find a way to sweep this series somehow, some way, and they end up leaving Philadelphia 3 games out with 15 to play, then we can talk about the division. Then we have a conversation about it. But I don't think, even if they take 3 out of 4, that's only a 2-game difference. It's still 5 games with 15 to go. That's, it's tough, but it's still possible. But I'm not worried about the division, right? Every year you should be going into the season want to win in your division. That's a fact. So I'm not really sure with this team at all. I think and somebody said it earlier, I forgot who it was in the comments, but they are very consistent at being inconsistent. And that couldn't be more of a fact. Like, I have no idea what this team is. But you know who else is saying that? Every other fan base that is probably going to make the playoffs or contender. Like, we're in the town with the Yankees. Even though the Yankees took 2 out of 3 against the Blue Jays, Yankee fans are still complaining. Like, they don't trust their team. As I said, I always listen to sports talk radio of other teams that we're facing. And today I listened to Philadelphia Sports Talk Radio. I listened to it for about, while I'm doing stuff at home. Like, I just listened to it. And they're not very confident in the Philadelphia Phillies. All they've been talking about is the Mets have our number. We don't feel confident in facing the Mets, right? They know they got a big lead, but they don't trust this team. So, and that is a Philadelphia fan base that has a team that is 7 games up in the division with 19 to play. So this is around baseball. Nobody feels confident in their teams. So it's just how it goes. And we feel the same way. There's a lot of teams that are very inconsistent. There's a lot of teams that have issues. Now, our issues might not be the other team's issues, but everybody has the issues. There is no dominant team in baseball. Every team is beatable. Every team has a weakness. Every team has an issue. And I do understand that the Mets are 0-59, trailing after 8, and still haven't won a game coming back after 8 innings. And the only other team was the Orioles until they did it the other day. So the Mets are the only team. I know that's a stat that's not sexy at all, and it's probably quite embarrassing. But does that mean that we can't win in the playoffs? Absolutely not. Because you know how it goes in the postseason. You need 1 or 2 hot bats, and you need 1 hot pitcher, especially in your rotation, to dominate. And you have a really good chance of winning. And that's where the Mets are right now. So, exactly, Kev. They lost Wheeler. They're not going to have Turner nor Alec Bohm in this series. And obviously, they're not going to have Wheeler for the rest of the year. Turner might not be back until the end of the year to the playoffs. And with Alec Bohm, he'll be back in about 10 days. So that's nearly a couple of guys that are not going to be there for the rest of the stretch of games, most of them. So that is something that we have to look at too. Like, where is the Phillies going with their game 1 starter? It's probably going to be Ranger Suarez, but is that somebody? I mean, who would you rather have, Wheeler or Suarez? Well, they don't have Wheeler. And I don't like Aronola. I think Aronola is way too overrated. And the Mets has really hit him over the years. And he hasn't really pitched, that well since coming back from injury. So, again, Nolan McLean has been outstanding, but this is the biggest games he's pitching. I know pitching it against Seattle when the Mets are really struggling, that was a big spot for him, but this is a big spot, right? The Mets just lost the series against Cincinnati. They got 19 games to play, and now they're playing their division rivals where the Phillies can basically bury us completely and statistically and mathematically in this division. So this is a huge game because we all know who's going tomorrow. So, we got Manaea going tomorrow, and we know that's a huge question mark. And they're going against their best pitcher in Suarez, even though Sanchez has been really good. I mean, look at you got Manaea, Holmes, and Peterson the next 3 days after today. Like, that doesn't spill confidence for me, but that doesn't mean the Mets can't win. The Mets won a game against Philadelphia that Manaea pitched. Holmes has been better than both of those guys, but again, he's not another one to trust. Sanchez has been pretty good. And we don't know the Thursday starter for the Phillies as of yet. And the last time I checked, it was still TBD, but it could be different now. But listen, McLean is the guy now, right? This isn't, oh, don't worry, he's a rookie. No. You pitch good enough now where Met fans believe in you. Met fans trust you. You can't come in here now and go into your division rival and get beat up in Philadelphia, because it's going to be the same old Mets. And you're going to be part of that same old Mets mentality. And Nolan McLean has set a bar. You better meet that bar in the biggest spots. And this is another bigger spot. And I'm not going to put McLean as our receiver. That's not even fair to receiver, right? McLean has earned nothing. The only thing he's earned is to stay in his rotation. That's it. That's all he's earned. You know, you can really say that Brandon Sproat had a better outing than everybody so far. So McLean has set a bar for himself where Met fans trust him. That trust can go out the window if he has a bad start today. Let's be honest about that. But I don't think he will. Like, that's the confidence that I want to have in a top rotation arm. The trust that we don't have in anybody in this rotation is the major problem that we're in, is why we're in this situation in the first place. You know, surviving and making the playoffs to survive that. They're the issue. So can McLean be that guy we absolutely trust? No, I didn't forget Tong. I already said, and Patrick, you probably weren't here to hear this, I didn't like Tong's outing. I like that he went to 6 innings, but let's not act like 4 runs is okay. And I don't care how they happened over 3 hits. That wasn't good enough. And I'm sorry, we can't make excuses for these kids. Like, we really can't. Jonah Tong needed to be better. Now, the Mets offense didn't help, and they didn't help yesterday either. So I'm getting on the offense of the Mets yesterday more than they did against in Game 2 with Tong on the mound, because that was the first time in Game 2 where the Mets kind of really didn't show anything offensively. Now, yesterday, I expected more from the offense. They didn't do their job. But Brandon Sproat had a no-hitter going to the 6th. So how am I blaming him? But again, Jonah Tong gave up 4 runs. You know, and here's the other problem. This has not been talked about amongst anybody. And I'm not speaking for anybody, but I've heard a lot. The walks got to stop. McLean has done it, even though he worked out of it. He's walking 3 or 4 guys a game. Tong did it the other night. Sproat did it last night. You can't continue to walk guys. You can't continue to walk guys because you will get burned. Right? This isn't Cincinnati. Right? Teams like the Phillies, teams that are better, will make you pay if you continue to walk guys. Patrick, great. He saved the pen, but he didn't save the game. That's the problem. I'm sorry, you gave up 4 runs. Here's the problem. The Mets can't win low-scoring games. I don't know if any Met fan can't realize that right now, but they can't. Because their pitching fucks up every time. Every time. When is it going to be possible for the Mets to win a 3-2 game? 2-1 game? 1-0? You know, the Mets are allowed to do that, right? There's no rule against them for not winning that. S-Man, I don't want to hear about their big league debut. Stearns, that's Stearns' fault. I am not blaming the kids. I'm not directly blaming them. Stearns put them in this position to either fail or succeed. I'm only telling you how it is. You don't have to like that. But you know what? If there was another name attached to that stat line for Jonah Tong, and let's say if it was Sean Manaea or Clay Holmes, everybody would have bitched about it. Oh, nice. He went 6 innings, but he gave up 4 runs. Patrick, I agree with you. But you know what? Sproat actually put zeros up on the board, and the Mets were already down multiple runs before Tong even got to the 6th inning. Right? Yesterday, Sproat did his job. The Mets couldn't score. They had 6 innings to take leads. When Tom was there, he already gave up leads. He already gave it up. It was already a deficit. That's what the Mets pitching does. They either put you in a deficit, or they put you in, or they give up leads. It's either or. But find me a game where the pitching actually kept the opposing team to 3 runs or less. Because the Mets don't win games that are low scoring. You know why? Because the pitching can't do it. Tong didn't pitch well. He didn't. Again, these are top pitching prospects, right? These are the guys that are top 100 in baseball, right? This is what we're talking about here. Everybody wanted them up, but you don't want the expectation. You don't want the results. That's a problem. You can't give up 4 runs and tell me you're a top pitcher. All right, you're a top pitching prospect. I don't think Jonah Tong's developed enough. He has 2 pitchers. If one of those are not working, he's in trouble. Clearly happened last outing. Balls that he probably blew by minor leaguers were roped over the wall. Sorry, it doesn't work like that in the majors. You got to be better. That's it. Why are we making excuses? I don't care if it's their second start or their first start. I don't care. You're not going to care when it's only their 6th start in the playoffs if they blow it, right? That's when you're going to blame them? Nah. Sorry, I'm not waiting that long. I blame Stearns for putting them in that position. But ultimately, they're here because they proved in the minors that they deserve to be here. No, Frank, it was 4 runs. He gave up 3 hits on 4 runs, and they were all home runs. I'm sorry. If the name said Clay Holmes or Sean Manaea or Kodai Senga, we've all would have bitched about it. We would have thanked the heavens that they went 6 innings, but they gave up 4 runs. That was 4 runs throughout the first 5 innings of a game. So we were already in a deficit, and the Mets finally didn't score runs when they were scoring runs every day, 5 runs or more. And yet everybody complained about the offense. They couldn't wait to blame the offense. Like the offense hasn't been the best in baseball in a month. Now, Brandon Sproat deserves credit because he put up zeros for nearly 6 innings. And the Mets couldn't score. So, yeah, blame the offense then when Sproat was putting up 0 after 0 after 0. And guess what? The Mets didn't score. That's when you blame the offense. And yeah, Truman, I agree with you. I take 4 runs in 6 innings, but not for these guys. Like, these guys are not supposed to be Clay Holmes. These guys are not supposed to be Kodai Senga or Sean Manaea or Tyler McGill. They're supposed to be better. You can't give up 4 runs on 3 hits on 3 home runs. You can't. Yeah, you know what, Kev? I would blame the baby, but you know who else I would blame? I would blame the parent for giving him the shit food. How about that? Like, that's the problem. And Joe is right. Stearns is desperate because he fucked up. He knows it. Because if he think he did the right thing, he wouldn't have brought these kids up. He knows he fucked up. He had no choice. His saving grace are these kids being dominant. And you know what? Jonah Tong, I think, is going to be fine. But don't act like we don't need outstanding starts from these guys. We don't need average starts. 6 innings of 4 runs is an average start. The 6 innings is great, but you can't give up 4 runs. Patrick, he saved the pen. Great. Then Brandon Sproat saved the pen as well, but he also put up zeros for more innings than Jonah Tong. That's when I blame the offense. Not one game, like in Tong's situation, where he already gave up. He already put the Mets in a deficit, a 4-run deficit. Like, that's it. He saved the pen, but he ultimately lost us the game because the Mets didn't score another run. So that 4 runs ultimately was the game. The one game where they didn't score 4 runs or 5 runs a game, which they have been doing. Again, wake me up when the Mets win a 2-1 ball game, 3-2 ball game. The Mets can't do that because their pitching doesn't allow that. And again, if Jonathan would have pitched 6 innings of 2-run ball, the Mets win a game, don't they? Or at least have a chance where he leaves the game with a lead. I'm not blaming Jonathan if you leave with a lead, but he left with a deficit. And we all know he didn't have his best stuff. We all saw that. Let's not act like we didn't watch the game where he couldn't get certain pitches over. And when he did have to get over the plate, his ball got hit 380 feet. And they were out of the ballpark. It's crazy. It's like we're too many Met fans are immune to criticizing kids that are top prospects, and this has gone on for a while. It's gone on with Vientos, Alvarez, Beatty, Mauricio, Acuna. And Adorable, it is a tough position for the rookies. I know that, but they didn't say, "Hey, I want to be in the majors." They were put there because Stearns was desperate, and he messed up. Dwayne, you don't overpay for pitching either. Well, then you find yourself in the situation the Mets are in. Right? This is the conundrum we're in. We didn't want to pay for the right pitching, so it ultimately screwed us from June on when the pitching didn't do their jobs or got hurt. Right? He had opportunities to sign guys, and he had opportunities to trade for better pitchers. He didn't do either of those. And then at the trade deadline, which everybody told me he was going to do, he didn't. So now we're relying on rookies who I think can be very good pitchers. I think McLean's probably going to be the best of them. But we're at the – I mean, can you name a team that brought up 3 pitching prospects that are top-level pitching prospects that all turn out to be top-level pitching prospects? Right? We all thought Pittsburgh was going to be that. Paul Skeens is the last one standing. Like, there's going to be 2 of these guys that are going to be average pitchers. And one of them is probably going to be barely hanging on to a rotation spot. The other one's probably going to be a number 3 or a 4. And then one of them is going to be a top 2 starter. Because that's how it works. Unless the Mets get extremely lucky, which, let's be honest, they don't have much luck. So, and that's okay. But to rely on that now is the dumbest fucking plan that they ultimately did not put together. Because we're in a situation now that we have to worry that if these kids don't pan out, if Tong throws another 6-inning performance of 4 runs, you shouldn't be happy. And yeah, maybe the Mets score 5 runs and win. But why do they have to score 5 runs every game? I would like to win a 2-1 game, a 1-0 game, 2-0 game. Because I said this for a while. There is not one offense in baseball that can sustain scoring 5+ runs every ball game and continue to win. Why do you think the Mets haven't gone on a winning streak of 4+ games since their 7-game winning streak? What is that? Nearly 2 months ago? Month and a half ago? Because it's not sustainable. The New York Mets, and no, the 2015 Mets actually had really good pitching. That's the difference. They didn't have a great offense. They had a terrible lineup. It was Cespedes and a bunch of bums. And a broken down David Wright. Like, come on. It's the reason why the Mets haven't gone on a prolonged winning streak of 4 or more games is because the pitching can't hold small leads. Okay, Patrick, that's fine. But they only scored 3 runs yesterday. Right? Why couldn't they only score 2 runs? Why couldn't they score 1 run? Because the Mets pitching can't do it. And it doesn't matter. It's any ballpark with the Mets. Their pitching doesn't allow it. That's the problem. Like, we got to stop and act like that's not a problem. The reason why we haven't gone on a 4+ game winning streak is because every game the Mets need to score 5 runs or more just to win. That's why you don't have prolonged. Like, look at the winning streaks around baseball. Look at the teams. When the Giants went 10 in a row. You know how many games they won 2-1, 3-2? It would be nice for the Mets to do that. Yeah, cheap pitching gets you cheap results. I mean, that couldn't be more of a fact than the 2025 New York Mets. Like, it sucks to say, but it's reality. And reality is it like flies out of the brain of Met fans. Like, it's not actually possible. Like, it's just amazing. No, Patrick, I'm not acting like it's that they're gonna roll over. But here, you just made my point. Hunter Green is a good pitcher too. Why do we just assume that we can always hit really good pitching? At times, you're not going to do that. But that's why the Mets haven't gone on prolonged winning streaks. When was their longest winning streak? 3 over the last month? That was probably the best they had. Why is that? Because the pitching can't step up when the hitters, when the lineup can't score more than 4 or 5 runs a game. Like, that's the problem. Yeah, exactly. We've scored 9 runs and lost. And look, shit like that happens. But when you consistently lose 3-2 ball games, when you lose 4-2 ball games, 4-3, 3-1, 2-1 ball games, don't always blame the offense, because there was 7 runs per game they scored over the last month. You can't score that every game. Like, over the last month, they might have won 3 games. That was 3 runs or less that they scored in a month. That's over 20-something, 26, 27 games. That's crazy. Patrick, I agree with you. It's not a bad start, but these guys are supposed to be better. I can get that from Clay Holmes. Like, we're ecstatic if Clay Holmes does that. Jonah Tom's supposed to be a top pitcher, right? I don't care if it's only his second start. That's not my problem. That's his problem to do better that Stearns put him in. Ultimately, I'm going to blame Stearns for this nonsense if they ultimately don't do their job. It's going to be part of the kid's problem, but ultimately it's going to be Stearns' problem. Yeah, but Kev, that's not true, because their offense has been scoring 7.5 runs per ball game when they were playing. Remember, their August schedule was not easy. So they had a pretty somewhat difficult schedule. So they were hitting good pitchers. But our pitchers, didn't matter if they were playing the Nationals, the Marlins, anybody. The bad teams were everybody that hit Mets pitching. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, it's like we're afraid. Yeah, I agree, committee. That's what I'm saying. If Clay Holmes goes 6 innings of 4-run baseball, we're ecstatic. But if Jonah Tonks does it, we're throwing him a freaking parade. Like, way too many people gave him a big pass. When didn't he provide a deficit for our offense? Well, Patrick, that's where I agree with you. 6 runs, 4 runs. And I'm sorry, guys, 4 runs is not a quality start. It's not. 4 runs is kind of a joke. You know, in today's game of baseball, that's like a great start. But I don't believe in that crap. Easy, I agree with you. But you know what? Find me 2-3 games over the last month where the Mets won games that they scored 3 runs or less. What? You know how many teams have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games of those? You can count on one hand in a month that they won games like that. They mostly lost those games. And God knows how many games they lost that they scored 5 runs or more, which is even a worse thing. Yeah, but Jake, it's not about being a rookie who comes up here and gives up 4 runs. It's the fact that you're losing games because these guys are supposed to be better. Aren't they? You wanted them up here because they're better, or supposedly better than what you have. That's the point. You can't be status quo and act like it's okay. Because if Clay Holmes was attached to that line, or Sean Manaea or Kodai Senga, we would have killed them. We'd have been happy because they won 6 innings, but the 4 runs would have been a problem. And we all know it would be a problem, but you're not saying that because Jonah Tong has that name over the stat line. That's why. It's time to actually focus on winning here. The pitching has not done their job. These guys are up here to be better than their counterparts. Not status quo, because status quo has not worked. We lost the game because Jonathan gave up 4 runs. Why is that hard to believe? And then I have people say, oh, the offense needed to score 5 runs. Wonderful. Because that's what we need to do every game. Yeah, but Brad, they didn't get the key hits. I agree with you. But why is it not okay to have a bad offensive performance when they scored more runs than anybody in baseball over the last month? They're allowed to have a game like that. That's why I'm pissed off, because this should not be the case. The sustained success of this team of winning games can't be scoring 5 runs a game every game to win a ball game or potentially win a ball game. That's why the Mets haven't gone on a prolonged winning streak. You know why? Because they don't win low-scoring games. If they score 3 runs or less, they're losing. Why is that hard to understand? Does nobody understand that? Like, they scored 3 runs yesterday. 2 runs yesterday. Okay, that sucks. I agree with you guys. But no, Brad, they had too many games like that. Not over the last month and a half. They've been the best offense in baseball when it comes to runs per game. An average, we're running the scoring position. Every stat except for home runs that they're second in. Yeah, Patrick, I agree with you. I understand that. But we also kept the Reds to 3 runs per game, right? I mean, I would love for the Mets to score 5 runs plus every game. But again, sit down and think why the Mets haven't gone on a 5, 6, 7-game winning streak since the last time they went on a 7-game winning streak. Go back to that 7-game winning streak when the Mets offense still wasn't doing anything. How are they winning games? They were winning low-scoring games, right? Most of those games are low-scoring. They can't win low-scoring games. They score 3 runs or less. They're not winning because their pitching doesn't do their job. Like, it's not sustainable. You got to win low-scoring games. I'm not saying every day. If we're talking about that every day like we did in, April and May, then yeah, we're killing the offense. But this offense has been the best in baseball for a month and a half now. They've been that good. They've been that good. Even when the Mets pitching was terrible, they were winning 7-5 ball games, 8-6 ball games. They were winning those games. They were also losing high-scoring games. Like, that's the problem. Like, really sit down and realize why we haven't gone on a prolonged winning streak. It's because you can't win every game 6-5, 7-5, 7-6, 8-7, 10-4. You can't win all those games like that. It's not sustainable. Your offense is going to have a 4-run performance or a 2-run performance from time to time. You got to win some of those games. I'm not saying all of them. I'm not asking that much from pitching. But you got to win those games every now and then. Your offense finally didn't come through for 2 games. And the pitching was like, all right, we'll just not do enough. Because isn't it not doing enough for the pitching? Like, I'm sorry. Like, this team has not gone on a prolonged winning streak because their pitching can't win low-scoring games. You got to win those games every now and then, especially when you're trying to go for a prolonged winning streak. Like, when your winning streak has been the most 3 for basically the longest since our 7-game winning streak, why is that? Because the game we probably lost is a 3-2 ball game. It's a 2-1 ball game. It sucks. Now, we got to count on Nolan McLean, who's been our best guy, who everybody wants them to be a Game 1 starter. Why is that? Because nobody's trusted. That's why. I'm sorry. I'm not going into a playoff game and expecting Jonah Tong to, he'll probably be a Game 3 starter or a Game 2 starter. But make no mistake about it. Do you really believe Sean Manaea is not pitching one of these games in a wild card series? You really think Stearns is going to leave those guys out of starting a game in a wild card series? And you think it's going to be McLean, Tong, and Sproat? You guys, whatever drug you're taking, give me some. Because that's not happening. That is not happening. I'm telling you that right now. Sean Manaea is getting a start in one of these wild card games. And then when he blows up I can laugh at everybody because, well, that's $20 million well spent from David Stearns. That penny pincher actually spent some money on the wrong guy. So, unfortunately, it's time for the Mets to continue to win ball games, regardless of how that happens now. Because at this point, I don't care how we win. If it's low scoring, high scoring, it doesn't matter. But we're blaming the wrong people here. The fact is the Mets lost, and everybody had a hand in it. Every one of them. From offense to pitching. They all had a hand in it. So, the lineup today, again, we still got Cedric Mullins in the lineup, guys. Batting ninth. Again, when you have no Tyrone Taylor, and don't give me that Acuna nonsense because he's another one that doesn't hit. And you can talk about speed all you want. Doesn't matter if you don't get on base. And Acuna can't walk, and he strikes out too much. So that is just another pointless guy who is just going to be a pinch runner and a defensive replacement, which is fine. Again, we need that, but that's all he is right now. Until he proves otherwise, that's all he is. So I don't know what we're going to get from Cedric Mullins. And Wayne, yeah, I do need a hug. We'll hug it out at work. All right, so the lineup today, guys, is Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo. I hate Nimmo in a cleanup spot. Makes no sense to me, but whatever. It is what it is. You got Vientos batting 58, and you got Jeff McNeil batting 6th. Playing second base, Francisco Alvarez batting 7th, catching. Brett Beatty batting 8th, and, of course, Cedric Mullins batting 9th. Again, guys, the Phillies don't have Turner. They don't have Alec Bohm. They got Hopper and Schwarber 1-2. They got their best hitters at the top of the lineup 1, 2, and 3, just like the Mets, Lindor, Soto, Alonso. It's get it done. I'm still sticking to my guns here. If you control Schwarber, the Phillies have a hard time winning ball games. I know Harper's been pretty good, but he's been the only guy that's kind of killed the Mets. Not much, but enough to cause some damage. Remember, the last time the Mets played the Phillies, Schwarber and Realmuto was on a tear. They were on the biggest hot streak of their season. And the Mets shut them down completely. They were 0 for 24 in that series. Harper did a little bit of damage, but Schwarber did it and Realmuto did it, and the Mets swept them. So I think that's the key once again. Control Schwarber, and you got a really good chance of beating the Phillies. I think you have the pitching matchup tonight. I don't like Aaron Nola. I think he's very much overrated, but he does have good stuff. It's just that he doesn't pitch well against the Mets. He is pitching in his home ballpark, but Nolan McLean, he set a bar now. So I'm expecting him to be damn good. Like, there's a bar now where if he don't hit that, I'm going to be very disappointed. And don't give me that rookie bullshit. Because when he pitches well, nobody talks about being a rookie. Everybody's talking about game one starter in the playoffs. So if you're going to keep that energy when he pitches well, keep that same energy if he pitches bad. Now, I don't think he will. So I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that that bar is set now. There was no bar with Brandon Sproat. So because again, he pitched really well, but he doesn't really have a bar yet. Jonah Tong, same thing. He's kind of like in that in-between right now. But McLean has set a bar, and that is somebody who's a top pitcher now. Right? That's the way I see him. I don't see him as a rookie anymore. I don't need any of that nonsense because that's the excuses everybody's going to give if they don't perform. Oh, he's not ready yet. Well, he's here, so too bad. Blame Stearns, which nobody likes to do. So let's get it done. We got a game against the Phillies. I truly think the Mets have to sweep this series to even have a conversation about the division with 15 games to go after this series. But it starts with today's game on Monday, a 6:40 start, 45 start for Mets Phillies. McLean and Nola. Let's go. McLean, big boy time. You performed very well. You have a big bar, a high bar for yourself, and that's great. But anything lower than that bar is not going to cut it. And D-Mac, yeah, I know it's LOL, but shit happens. For some reason, the Mets play well against the Phillies. I can't predict it. I don't get it. I don't understand it, but it is what it is. Right? The Mets were, 6 games out or 7 games out when we faced them the last time, and we swept them, and we were 4 games out again. And then the division was a conversation again. I'm not saying that it's a possibility. But if they sweep them, it's clearly a possibility with 15 to play. But again, I don't think that could happen. But again, crazier things has happened. It has. The Mets don't make sense this year. They play down to their competition and they play up to better competition. And they played up all year against the Phillies. So we'll see. All I know is the Mets need to stack wins because all that matters is stacking wins. Because all that should matter is getting enough wins to make a wild card and to stay where we are or get higher in the wild card. That's it. That's all that should matter. Again, if the Mets win 1-0 or 10-9, I have something to say about the pitching, but it doesn't matter. Win is a win at this point, right? I'm not going to overly go crazy on how we win anymore. It's just that too many people were giving way too much credit to the wrong thing and not blaming or giving blame to the wrong area of the team. It's crazy, but we do have an opportunity here to win ball games. You got your best pitcher, which is amazing to say, but it's true, in Nolan McLean. This is the biggest game that he's pitched so far for the New York Mets. This is an opportunity here to get back in that win column, start game one with a win, and then you worry about tomorrow's game. Right now, Soto's red hot. Lindor has been damn good. Alonso has been probably pretty decent. Nimmo has been weird. And Vientos has been good. So let's get it done, guys. Let's beat these damn Phillies. Let's show them that this division is not over yet. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But you know what? The Mets can have a lot to say in this series. And hopefully we're talking about a wild card and the division, a possibility as the number one wild card or the division as well. So with that said, guys, there will be no post game today, unfortunately. But I will speak to you tomorrow for a pregame. Hopefully we're talking about a Mets win and a couple of teams that are in front of us and behind us with some losses, guys. Have a great night, guys. Enjoy the game and beat those Phillies, guys. Let's go, Mets.
Seven train rumble, headed to the field. Orange and blue vibes, the energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, repping both hoods. Rob and CP, keep it fire.